Okay, so this episode is actually shorter than the last one. We have no commercial interruptions. We have no
Should we do 2 episodes?
no. We're only,
Just
we're only
one.
gonna do
Just
one.
one. Just
We're only
kidding.
gonna do one, but it's a little bit shorter tonight, so we might actually get done a little bit early. But what I was gonna say is I'm gonna be very much more cognizant of everybody's time this time because we went long the last
Yeah.
one. So
I think it was with the pausing and
yeah, I mean it was all my technical difficulties, but I do want to again, like I said, make sure that we are more aware of folks' time. So
Question, is it supposed to start at 6:15 or 6:30?
6:30.
Okay, because on the thing for Bonnie today, it said 6:15, which is fine. I was late anyway because I thought it was 6:30, so I jumped on. So, okay, I'm good. I got it now.
whoops.
And I was too lazy to drive in. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
No, it should have been 6:30 to 8.
Okay.
So and we'll say it again at the end of the hour because we'll have people that'll probably kind of continue to trickle in. But next week we are not going to meet. Pastor and Natalie are going to be at Camp Formation next week, Camp Agape, and I am going to be on my way to Florida. So
Yay.
yeah, I know. Yay for those that are going camping. With all the rain and the hot weather they have in Florida, I'm not sure if I'm looking
Oh,
forward
Oh,
to
it's coming down today. I think it'll be better next week.
I hope so.
They said they got a month of rain, like a month's worth of rain in one day.
Oh, wow.
This week, I think it
Yeah.
was like 15 inches in Naples.
Like raining sheets, I think they say,
Yeah, it's been nuts.
when you can't breathe outside.
But anyway, so last week we met several of our main characters. We met Jesus right at the tail end. But we met Mary Magdalene. We were introduced to Simon Peter and his brother Andrew, and we met Nicodemus. So now we kind of got the Pharisees going. We have the beginning of the disciples, and some of the followers. So, I guess without further ado, it's 6:32. What I'd like to do is basically we'll play a little bit of the video, and then we will take a break and kind of talk through, kind of what we've seen, and then at the end we'll, kind of do some summary and some of those kind of things, and kind of keep going from there. So one of the big things, just to make sure everybody's tracking, that this is historical fiction. There are several liberties that are going to be played to make it somewhat entertaining. However, it's not going to be to the point where they are going to just throw the Bible out the window and just a free for all. So we'll kind of talk through some of that, some of the things that you see that. And if you have any questions, obviously, please bring those up. We have Natalie here who's, seminary trained. So
I'll do my best.
if I can't answer it, then I'm just going to look over to her. But anyway, but the good thing is, based on what I've seen, it really does have a good historical basis. And it is fairly well grounded within, the overall Bible background. So, Whitewater, you want to hit play?
Nope, I want you to tell them the ground rules.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, I am amiss. So what we're going to ask is, while we're playing the video, we're going to ask everyone to please mute your microphones, and the reason is because any sound whatsoever is going to blow the sound completely out of the video. And more importantly, it's going to then create a horrible sounding feedback loop.
Mhm.
So if everybody could mute that, and we'll mute it on our end as well. And then once we're ready to come back on, I'll unmute it, and then we can begin a discussion. Everybody can unmute at that time. Sounds good? So if everyone would please mute your system.
I'm gonna unlock the door.
All right, we're back. Everybody can take your selves off mute if you'd like. So let's talk a little bit about what we've seen now.
Somebody left their rooster
All right. So the last scene was particularly interesting, where we had Mary of Magdala, or Mary Magdalene, talking to Nicodemus. And Nicodemus is under the impression that he was the one who had cured, basically exorcised the demons from Mary. And Mary couldn't quite remember all of the details of Nicodemus's visit, obviously, because she was in the throes. But she did know enough that he was not the one responsible. So can anybody remember what the line was that she said that Jesus had told her?
It is not time for a man to know, or it's
Yeah, no, that's good. So where else have we heard that phrase in the Bible? It was another early miracle.
Was that at the wedding feast when he changed the water to wine?
Yes. He told his mother that it was not his time yet.
and always told me not to raise my hand.
Yeah, no, it was not his time yet. So what did that Mary do?
She had him do it anyway.
That's right. Woman, it's not my
Like
time.
his mother.
Whatever he says, you just follow him. Yeah. No, that's perfect. So so that's kind of interesting, because when we ended that episode, of course, it was a cliffhanger, and we just saw, kind of the light go on in Mary's eyes, but then the episode ended. So now we got to see her now as she was at the hairdresser, and she definitely looks like a completely different person. So, that's one of the wonderful things about Jesus, is just the fact that, you can, as long as you believe that he can help you, you can be a different person, the next day based on that belief and your relationship with him. So I thought that was pretty inspiring. What else did you guys notice? What about Matthew as the tax collector? What else did we learn about Matthew?
He's pretty brave to talk to that Roman guy.
Yeah. I don't know if it was brave or he just didn't understand or comprehend the danger he was in.
Yeah.
Naive, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, naive. That might be a good term. But no, so he definitely seems to be a person that speaks whatever. I don't want to say he's kind of impetuous, but he definitely seems to just kind of want to get the truth out as he believes the truth is.
Also, this actor is playing Matthew as someone with slightly obsessive compulsive. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we
Because he has to continue, like when he was brushing his where he was dirty,
Yep.
he has to complete what he's doing. I don't know if that's historically accurate at all, but that's a part of this character, the way it's being played.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we noticed that the last time when he stepped in some dirty material the last time, and he had to abandon his sandals.
Yeah.
Not gonna clean that stuff up. I'm done. These are gone. No, that's good. That's good. So one of the, I guess one of the other things that is kind of interesting, looking at Simon and, well, actually going back to Matthew, he made a comment that was kind of interesting to the Roman centurion who is, or the Roman legionary who is kind of his handler, if you will, and that was about his father.
Mhm.
Yeah, his father disowned.
Exactly, exactly. So, and that's one of the things that really is, is really tough, because for tax collectors then, they would have the requirement, they would be from that population, if you will, but they were completely ostracized. It was like they were just completely outcast. Um, And of course, most of the tax collectors, and we don't really know enough yet about Matthew, but most of the tax collectors lived very, very well. And Matthew seems to be doing okay, because a lot of how they got paid was they would inflate the taxes so that they could skim off the top, and that would be how they would take their livelihood. So that kind of makes you, a little bit of animosity. Number one, because you're basically putting someone out in the street if you take his house, but also, you've got the nicest residents out there because, you're getting the taxes and then some. So, yeah, so that it'll be interesting to kind of see how that's portrayed. What about Nicodemus? What do you think about his character so far?
I find him very interesting because he didn't seem to be upset when Mary told him that he wasn't the one that caused the miracle.
Okay. Okay.
I would thought that he would think, how could you say that? But that's not what this character did.
No, and I would even take that back a little bit further to when he was actually within, kind of the Jewish council, if you will, of the Pharisees, and the fact that he didn't want to all of a sudden, go spread his name far and wide that he had exorcised a demon, or 7 demons in his case. Because that's basically what that group wanted to do, was go out there and declare a miracle. And who was the miracle worker? Nicodemus.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. So he wasn't quite sure he wanted to go that route yet. So so that was kind of interesting as well.
He was kind of full of himself, though.
Are you saying when you come out of seminary that's not what happens?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I also think that excuse me a minute. Our take on Pharisees, wait a minute.
Okay.
Our take on Pharisees is they were all out for themselves and stuck up and not worried about the people as much as following the Torah exactly as written. And Nicodemus seems different. Or maybe he's not as different as we're come to think.
No, and what was kind of interesting to me was you saw the reaction of all the citizens to the other Pharisee who was kind of walking down the street,
They were like,
and everybody was getting in the the obeisance position, if you will, to show their respects and all that other and all the other honors to that position. But it was kind of interesting when Nicodemus was walking by, he wasn't paying any attention, but that other
Right.
seemed to be, kind of looking around, and every time he would make eye contact with someone, they would have to quickly bow their heads, and so yeah, so he definitely seems to have kind of a slightly different style.
Well, when he said, I'm not here to enforce Jewish law.
Mhm, mhm.
He did indeed say that. That is true.
But I think he was surrounded by a group of people who gave him an elevated status. And so he was kind of used to that.
Gave
too.
him the ability to what? I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
That they gave him an elevated status. Because he was like their teacher, their leader, and
He's the teacher of teachers.
Yes.
All right. You want to go ahead and anybody else have any additional comments? What about the Shabbat? What did we, you know, what is your definition of the Sabbath, if you will, or as they like to call it in the Shabbat?
Well, it's the seventh day of the week. It's from sundown to sundown. They're supposed to not do any work, and so everything is done beforehand. And that's what it appeared that they were doing.
Okay. Why?
but there's also the meal. There's a ritual meal that needs to be prepared.
Okay.
God rested on the seventh day and said, keep it holy.
So for those who went through the Exodus with us, which I think we're still going through in real time, by the way, we're in year 1 now of the 40-year Exodus. What did God say about the Sabbath?
Well, it was said that God rested on the seventh day
Okay.
from
Yep.
his labors,
Mm-hmm.
and then said, on the seventh day, keep it holy. And that's all I remember right now.
Okay. No, but that's good. So let's talk a little bit about the holy part, because I think really one of the important things about the Sabbath is it is important for everyone to rest, but it's also important for you to really reflect upon what God has done for you and what God continues to do for you. And I think that's one of the big things that, when Jesus comes, and of course we'll probably see a little bit more of some of that, as the season goes on. But one of the big things is, Jesus's main word was, the Sabbath. Man wasn't made for the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man. That certain things, that everybody says you can't do work, but on the same token, you can't let someone not be full, not be healed. You have to take care of people.
Not be hungry,
Exactly.
not suffer.
Exactly. So I think that's one of the, kind of one of the critical things, that God was really, and as you look at some of the stuff from the Exodus, he was really trying to make the people be much more self-sufficient so that they would also have that capacity to be able to take care of others. Because they would go out and they would have to gather 2 days worth of manna, during the Exodus in order to sustain them and their families through,
Right.
The actual Sabbath itself.
But by the time of Jesus, there had been so many lower court rulings about that. So is this, no, you can't do that on the Sabbath. Yeah, you could do that, but not very much of it. There had been so many questions about exactly what was allowed and what wasn't, that it really became burdensome.
Very good, yeah.
So Jesus, part of his liberation was to get away from all of the laws of the Sabbath.
Yeah, because we had kind of mentioned that in Leviticus there's about 613 laws, and you add in the 10 Commandments, so 613 plus 10, or if you want to go backwards, You know, you could go 613 minus 10, and then you get to Jesus, and he goes down from 2 and then finally to 1. Um, Jesus said, there's only 2 important commandments. Love God, and love your neighbors yourself. But anyway, so let's go ahead and continue if you wouldn't mind. I'll put this on mute if everybody else would mute yourselves, please. All right. So sorry, we did have a minor glitch, and now we've learned we will make sure that we remember exactly what the counter was when we hit the stop button. But anyway, that was one of my favorite scenes anyway, so it was good to see it a second time. With Mary and Nicodemus. All right, so wow, they left us another cliffhanger with old Simon Peter. He's got some Roman buddies coming to ask him a few questions, it looks like. But who were the 2 individuals who first showed up at Mary's house for the Sabbath dinner?
I can't remember their names.
So they are
Barnaby and, wasn't it?
Barnaby was.
no, Barnaby's the older
Barnaby.
gentleman.
James and
Was it James and John?
somebody else. I don't remember the other one.
No, we did see James and John, but I think that was Thaddeus and
Right.
what was the other one's name? But they are future disciples. But we did actually see a brief introduction of James and John when Simon Peter said, "Oh, who let the kids in to the bar?" That was our introduction to those guys. But what was that line that we heard from Barnaby when Jesus introduced himself?
Something good can come out of Nazareth.
Yeah. So that was that's one of those that's kind of one of those things that Jesus will be contending with for quite a while.
And that was a pretty common saying, apparently, at least the Bible puts it as such.
It absolutely was, and the reason for that is that's where the majority of the zealots come out of some rural areas. So they were usually known for fomenting the rebellions and some of the other more animosity type reactions to the Romans. So much more so than Jerusalem, where a lot of the ruling class there is benefiting more from the Roman rule, if you will.
Thank you. I never knew why that was said. I appreciate it. I knew that was said. I just never knew why.
And really, we used to have, and we probably still do, but sometimes you'll hear people talk about those that are in the rural. Oh, the Hicks are there, and that's really kind of what it was. You had the urban dwellers, and then you had those that were more in the rural, the farming and some of the other stuff. And that's where that kind of stuff took place. It was in Galilee and Nazareth. What else did we see within this portion of it?
Well, the seat that Mary had left, which was usually left on Shabbat, empty, was then filled by Christ, which is really a cool
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
That is cool.
It was
I
for
love that.
Elijah, but he filled it. Yeah.
At Passover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she had her references wrong, but she probably had the individual probably pretty close.
And who was it originally in and when they do Shabbat, is that for the Messiah? I mean, I forget what the origination of that is.
No, so she had her events confused. So she actually was thinking to the Passover, where you do leave an empty seat for Elijah to come.
That's right. It's Elijah. Thank you.
Oh,
I had somebody actually give me that answer, but she needs
Thank
to
you.
Yeah, that was Vicar Natalie, by the way.
I had read that, but
But I think Pastor Marcia probably could have chimed in too. Their voices just aren't quite as booming as mine is.
I was struck by the difference, it was neat having the two Sabbath meals kind of side by side there. But
well,
you know-
3, because you had John's too. I mean, Simon Peter's.
Nicodemus was, again, you be the leader of this, and he was, and Mary wanted Jesus, and Mary kept making it clear, I haven't done this in a while, I have no idea what I'm doing, and Jesus said, you're home, you do it. There's a humility there, and
No, and I thought that was good, and the fact that Mary could read was pretty
yeah.
pretty cool too. I mean,
Except Nicodemus was reflecting on them 200 years before not being able to have Shabbat. So there was some reflection in that, although he did, go to lead Shabbat. The thing that was on the wall, and his wife came up before he sat down. And he said 200 years ago, we were ruled, and I forget by whom. And, we could not practice our religion, and now we can.
yeah, so that's another one of those history lessons that we could do a deep dive, but I'll probably spare most everyone. But for those of you who remember a gentleman named Alexander the Great, his kingdom got divided up between 4 different generals, and one of those generals had the Judean area, and his descendants were basically were in power until the Maccabean revolt, and that's kind of where that came from.
What year was the Macedonian revolt?
The Maccabean revolt was in 200 or somewhere around there BC. And then the Hasmoneans he was talking about were basically, it started out as being the sons of Maccabee. They kind of became the de facto king, if you will. And then they kind of called themselves the Hasmoneans. And so the Romans, and believe it or not, the seeds were planted at the Maccabean revolt for the Romans. They made a treaty with Rome to help in the ousting of the oh gosh, I'm trying to remember what was the name of the general there. I can't remember. I think it was Ptolemy, but Ptolemy might have been Egypt. Anyway, I believe it was part of the Ptolemaic side.
Okay.
And was that
Did he say Tertullian though?
Tertullian?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
'Cause of the Ptolemy.
I can't hear that. What was that?
We're just speculating. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, she was.
You go right ahead.
No. Marcia was trying to help me with my poor memory for names.
I'm a history maniac, so I'm sorry.
No. I will definitely make sure I can fill it in. But basically, one of the generals got Egypt, and I can't remember if that was Ptolemy. I think it was Ptolemy that got Egypt.
I think you're right about that.
Because you had the Ptolemaic rulers of Egypt.
Correct. So Ptolemy got Egypt, and I can't remember who was the one who got Judea. But they had several fights between he and Ptolemy and Ptolemy's heirs over the years, and so that area kept moving um up and down the King's Highway. But like I said, the Maccabeans actually went to Rome and actually made a treaty with Rome to provide them with support to oust the Greek or Macedonian, I guess is probably a better word for it, ruler. And so the Romans just kind of continue to expand and grow, but they had an in to get in there from the beginning. So Judea basically became a puppet state to them.
So Ptolemy started reigning in Egypt in 323 BC, and it lasted for 275 years until the Romans took over.
Wow.
The Roman.
I think Cleopatra was the last of the Ptolemaic rulers, I believe.
Yes, she. Yep, that is correct. Because after that, it was truly straight up Roman.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. So no, but that's good. So we kind of talked a little bit about that portion.
I thought it was the person who was blind at Mary's table. You know, you wanted Christ to go do another miracle, you know, but it's not yet time, you know.
Yeah.
It
So
was hard not to say, oh, go ahead.
yeah, come on, wipe the scales out of her eyes.
If you can.
Yeah.
He's got skills, yeah.
Yeah, you got skills. Thank you. Exactly. And very poignant that she was there.
I haven't seen this series, but maybe that's some foreshadowing or something.
I hope so. I can't remember, and I have watched part of it, but I can't remember. But I have hopes. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Anybody else have anything that they want to add?
Well, I know I'm running my mouth. When Matthew went to his home, that's where he went with the dish for Shabbat. And then he didn't knock. That's where he'd been turned away from.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. I saw he kind of looked in the window, but
And he didn't see his father. I think he saw his mother and his sister, I believe.
yeah. Interesting.
But he still has those yearnings. That must have been really hard for all of them.
I would definitely imagine it would be. Because we saw, you know, the last episode where, you know, the person who was giving him a ride, you know, he basically had to hide in the back of his wagon, so that nobody would associate that individual with, you know, Matthew.
Yeah.
Out. So yeah, so I imagine it would be a challenge for his family.
But I guess in a way he was like he was sharing what he had with the dog, like he was taking care of creation. So
Yeah.
Sounds like one of my meals with the dog right there. You know, here you go. And then Holly giving me the stink eye because I'm not supposed to feed her.
But that was very poignant, you know.
Well, he did promise that, you know, if he had something left when he came back, he would share it. So
Mhm.
he kept his promise.
Well, and think of this, if the Romans, when they employed their tax collectors from the population, they also put them in the position of having to steal from the population in order to live, it sounds like. And they lived well, which is how you got people to do that. But then what they paid for it in their humanity is tremendous. It was evil of the Romans to do it that way. Anyway,
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it's one of those things that it definitely is tough. But there were a lot of people who would take that position who may not have had the most scruples.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, there were definitely folks that took advantage of it.
Yeah.
You can't serve God and man, you just gotta,
Exactly.
go for the money.
That's right. You can't serve God and mammon.
Yeah.
I was still working on the ruler, and it said that Ptolemy ruled both in Egypt and in Palestine.
He were both.
Yeah, see
Thank
that was the part that I knew they had a battle. He and whatever that other general was, or their descendants. I'm sorry, because it was many years after they had divided up the spoils. You know, because Alexander was back in like 350 BC.
325, it says.
Oh,
was when he
325.
died,
Okay.
Or 323 something.
Yeah.
So, not that it mattered anymore, but.
No, but
I
it's
wasn't
funny.
asking the right questions, and I finally got the answer.
But no, it was funny because Alexander was about the same age as Jesus when he died.
He
So
conquered all those land, yeah.
exactly,
Amazing.
exactly. You had to do all your stuff when you were young, because I mean, you know, you lived hard and burned out quick. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else? Eileen, Pat Brown, you've been quiet.
Oh, they're muted.
Oh, you guys are muted.
Yeah,
If you were trying to
yeah.
talk, back to me.
I just think it's interesting, you know, some people were telling me about, well, they didn't really care for The Chosen because it wasn't biblical, and, you know, so much of it was made up, and
I think it's fun.
I hadn't seen it, so I just said, okay, thanks, but I think it's really interesting to kind of fill in the blanks of history
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
what this is. I've done portrayals of many of the women of the Bible, and I was nervous doing it, but I always loved putting it together, because you get to make up this person's story, you know, based on
Yeah.
what you know about the woman who had the flow of blood for all those years, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know very much about her, but we could sure imagine what her life was like when you understand kind of the rules of
yeah.
society and stuff. So
No, that's
I
all.
appreciate all of even though it's speculative,
Mhm.
just to help us think about what life was like for these individuals who followed Jesus. Although we'll have to see where it goes, but so far I think that Peter and Andrew, when they dropped their nets and followed Jesus right away, they needed something else to do, it sounds like.
I was
But
gonna
I'm gonna wait
say.
and see how it all plays out.
It looks like Simon Peter's ready. Hey, if you're gonna protect me from the Romans, I'm with you, man.
and I'm losing my boat anyway, so. So I'm willing to wait and see how it plays out, but it's not looking so good for him.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, so next week we're gonna take the week off, and then we will come back together for the last week of June, which I believe is the 27th. 26th. Oh,
26.
man, I was so close. Yeah, you don't want me to tell you
Me neither.
the
So we're not meeting at all next week.
We're not gonna meet at all next week.
Oh, okay.
So I apologize. I'm gonna be in Florida. Pastor Ben is gonna be at Camp Formation, and Natalie's gonna be at Camp Formation.
Mhm.
So So it'll be a little bit quiet. So we'll go ahead and take the week off. And I'm gonna make sure I throw something out there for folks because we have a smaller group this week, so that gives people some time to watch this episode and get caught back up for episode number 3.
You know, there are a whole number of study guides, free study guides online for these shows.
There are. I actually have one that
And-
wasn't free, but it's still very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of free ones. Victory Lutheran in Arizona has one out there, and
Oh.
Free what for this show? I didn't hear the second
study
word.
guides,
Free study guides.
Oh.
questions, things with quotes and questions and things to talk about
Mhm.
that might spur more interest from people.
Yeah. The one that I've got is actually not bad. I gave the hard copy or the paper copy. It's by another one of those, evangelical groups that I try usually to not participate with too much. It's the Chosen and Interactive Bible Study, season 1, and it's called "What Does It Mean to Be Chosen?" And I don't know if you guys can see that. It's probably pretty small. Pastor
think
Ben's
that
got
might-
the actual
Yeah,
book.
that might be the official one from the Chosen people.
Really?
Because when I
Yes, it
clicked on
is.
that,
It is
it's the
actually.
official one from them, but there are others that are out there that,
Yeah.
are just like one-page things that, maybe
Yeah,
Smaller.
absolutely.
look through
Mhm.
some of those and see if there's something that gives a little structure.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, Marcia, to your comment about how it's being played out is back to what I said about the actor playing Christ, what he went through to feel like he could actually play that person. Actors do an enormous amount of studying of their characters to try to become them. And, to his credit, apparently it's been quite a process and sometimes quite difficult. And my son makes movies, so I pay attention to things like that. So that leads it, in my mind, to maybe perhaps be more authentic than I might think it would be.
Oh, that's good.
You'd really be walking on some thin ice as that actor then, because you get in trouble if you tell people that you're Jesus, so.
Yeah.
Quick road to the funny farm.
Yeah, but I think, that it would be, especially if a person is already a faithful person, to be called into that role would be very,
A lot.
very challenging, I would think.
All right. Well, if we don't have anything else, I will let everybody go a little bit early. Do we want to start ending in prayer? I mean, just go through the Lord's Prayer, perhaps.
They even have that in some of the study guides.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and closing.
I'm willing to pray.
Okay. Would you mind? Would you mind?
I can pray.
She's got that down.
May have started in seminary. I may have told you this story already, but when I was in seminary, we were invited over to somebody's house and they said to me, well, Marcia, could you pray? And Jack said, for what I'm paying for her to go to seminary, she sure
She
better.
better. You better. That's right.
I've tried to be a good prayer ever since.
Gotta live up to it.
Got my money's worth.
So anyway, well, here it goes. Gracious God, we are so grateful for those who were the very first ones to encounter Jesus and to follow him and to carry the excitement and the joy and the mystery and the majesty and the awe and the questions that they had as they started out. Thank you for their faithfulness, which is an inspiration to us in our faithfulness. We ask that as we're contemplating what we have seen tonight, that all of that will also be working in us to bring us ever closer to you and ever closer to an understanding of who Christ is in our lives. watch over us this night. Give us safe travels for those of us who are traveling. We pray for a restful night and a waking up tomorrow to another day filled with your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.